Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Masechtas Kiddushin daf Memches. We are going to begin on Memches Amud Aleph, about 10 lines from the top, with the words Nemeka Tanoi. So in yesterday's daf, we were discussing the possibility that when we said the statement of Hamalva Hamakadosh B'milva, a person is a Makadosh woman with a loan, whether or not that's a good Kiddushin, which we end up saying Ein Mikadeshes, maybe that's actually Machlokes Tanoim. So we end up trying to bring other places in support of this concept as it being a potential Machlokes Tanoim, and here we continue. Nemeka Tanoi. A person says his skajli b'shtar, marry me with a star. Now, of course, we know if it's a regular star, that's what the Mishnah says on Daf Beis, that it does work. Which again is hard to understand what that means. We evaluate the paper. So it's all totally, the paper has to at least be worth shavar pruta. Now, let's say we're dealing with a situation where it's not shtar Kiddushin. It's hard to imagine that would be the case because it's beferish and it doesn't even need to be shavar pruta. So we're talking about a situation of a shtar chayiv, that someone is owed money, right? So this man says, here, I'm giving you this star, and instead of me collecting it, it's now you're going to essentially being the malva. So kash rameir rameir. So if that's the case, we end up having a stira ramen rameir, because Rashi reminds us, the whole Tanya El, we learned previously, according to the sheet of Rameir, his skajli b'shtar chayiv rameir omer mikudeshes. He says that when it comes to shtar chav de'acherem, that it is a good Kiddushin. So you can't say that's the case, because then it would be a stira in the words of Rameir. So that cannot be the case. Okay, so el b'shtar chav didah. Maybe it's referring to a shtar chav that he is actually the malveh upon her. Now, she owes him money. And umakadosh b'milva k'miflagi. The whole question is, can he be makadosh her with this loan that she owes him? So therefore, some say yes, some say no, and some say we're shum, we evaluate. So therefore, we see that this is the machlokas, indeed it's machlokas tanaim. Gemara says 1 second. Actually, it's a totally separate case. We're talking about a shtar erison. Well, 1 second. I thought we said when there's a shtar erison, that works. So over here, we're dealing where it says Hari Mikudeshesli. However, there's no witnesses that actually signed it. All you have are Eidim Asira. You have people that saw it being given over. So Rameir holds that you need to actually have signatures on the get. And therefore, so too when it comes to this, the same din applies, that you need to actually have signatures, and therefore it's not considered to be a valid Kiddushin. Rabbi Lezer, he goes according to his reasoning, okay, as we see numerous times in Masechtas Gittin, in a Masira Karti. He holds that really, when it says a Kosov law, it's not a totally on Lishma, is not on the Chasimas, it's on the Ksiva. The writing of the get has to be Lishma. So too, when it comes to the Eidim, you don't need Eidi Chasima, you just need Eidi Masira to have it given over. So therefore, if there was no witnesses on this document, it's still a valid document. Rabban Masafkahu, the Rabban aren't sure. Ikra Meir Rabbi Lezer. Hilkach Shavnas Anayim Yeshmar Shavar Prutim Kadesh Limaladim Kadeshas. He says, you know what? We have to evaluate the star, because I don't know if Al Torah star that it works, because there's no Edim. And therefore, we have to say it will be Chal the Torah's Kesef, that if it has the value of a Pruta. That's another possibility. V'iboy same a possible, another answer could go in Shikasu Shol Shema. We're talking about a situation where, again, he wrote her star, Erison, but it was done Shol Shema, not with not with the intent of having given it to her. The boy Reish Lakish asks a question. Shtar Erison Shikasu Shol Shema Mahu. What's the din if you wrote a shtar erison not for her sake? Can you still use it for her? Do we say the following? Do we say possibly it's not good because we know when it comes to a get, because of lishma, it has to be written, it has to be lishma. So therefore, since this was not lishma, so therefore it's a problem because we compare gittin to Kiddushin. Or do we say no? Odilma havayis lahadadi makshinan. We only compare the goings in. Ma havoyed the kesav l'bina l'shma. Just like money obviously doesn't need to be minted for the sake of giving it to her. You can use any money. Now for avoid the shtar l'bina l'shma. So busted the boy had a pash. Afterwards they answer the question. So actually it is a hekesh. And therefore, according to one sheet, that's not going to be a good Kiddushin. So Mar Islay the Reish Lakish, Mar Leislay the Reish Lakish. One holds like them, one doesn't hold like him. Okay. That's the Machlokas. Another possibility is V-Boy said to call me Islay the Reish Lakish. Everyone holds that a get definitely has to be Lishma, but so too Shtar Erison has to be Lishma. So V'halchava Ma'askin and Shekasa Lishma was written for her sake, however, Shalom Adaita. It was done without her consent. Rashi says, Lo Yoda Kishenichtav. While the document, the Shtar Erison, was being written, it was a surprise. She didn't know about it. So the question is that valid if she didn't know about it? But both the Rabbi of Ravina, Rav Papa of Rav Shrabi, it's a machlokas based on these two pairs. Didn't more like this. Kasal Lishma, if the Shtar was written properly with her intent, on his side, however, Shalom Adaita, but she didn't know about it. Rav Ravina Armi Mikadashas, Rav Papa, Rav Shrabi Armi Mikadashas. So name a kahani. That's it. So name a kahani tonight. So Enu Mikadashas says Rashi. Why not? Ma yitzia beinan b'ksivas haget das makna denu bal. When it comes to the get, the bal, the husband, who's the one who is giving up something, namely his wife. He needs to know about it. Shemata seishul asma b'gatzeh. Havoyed b'inan das machne v'yisha. In this situation, the woman is the das machne because she's like giving up her freedom, if you will, to be married to him. Shemachnes atzmo labal b'shtar zeh. So therefore, that's the connection. Question 9. My time number the shtar eristim b'inan ksivasa l'shma. So it's because we're makish havol yitzia. Then it needs to be lishma. My time to be in and ksivasa lishma l'daita, rather that's only Rashi. When we say that ksivasai l'daita the makdish avul yitzia to be in and das makna. Okay. Weiter. So again, we're trying to find that maybe it's a machlokes tanaim. We end up saying no, that's not the case. So let's continue. Kahani tonight. Maybe it's like this. The Sanya. Asli shirayim nizamim v'tabois v'kadishin yilach. Provide for me all these beautiful jewelries, rings, and the like, and I'll marry you. Kivan shiyasam. So once he actually makes them, because she said aseli, make them for me. So therefore, the din is kivan shiyasam mikudeshus. Once they're made, then it is Kiddushin. So that's the idea. So why? She's the one giving the gold, but Rashi says, "B'schar pulascha shahazav mishalahu." She supplied the material. She supplied the gold, but she said, "Fashion jewelry from this gold." So therefore, basically, instead of him being paid for his labor, so that's the Kiddushin. So in this, again, according to the Gemara, Kivan Shasmu Kadashas and Meir. Once he makes it, it's a good Kiddushin. He actually has to give money to her hands. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean that money? He doesn't have to give it to her. Like, of course he has to give it to her. Why would you not think he has to give the jewelry to her? Ella b'mai boy mikadsha. So what is Ella b'mai boy mikadsha? So right. Otherwise, how's he mean mikadash her? He's not giving her anything. Ella lav. So rather, it's b'mamin acher. Talking about he has to give other money, maybe. Shema minam mikadosh b'milva k'mifagi. V'savri dekol yal meishlos cheres mitchilat saif. Everyone holds that when it comes to working, the truth is you're supposed to be compensated for every single second that you're working. The havi milva, and therefore it's considered to be like a loan, because the first moments of making the item, she already owed you for that, and therefore now being moichel is like she had there was a malva that was like a loan. Like she's the lov and he's the malva. And therefore, he's forgiving this loan. So that's the case of being Mekadosh Milva. So my love, the Marsav Mekadosh Milva Mekadosh is Marsav Mekadosh Milva and Mekadosh. So it's not the Machlokas. Well, the Koyam Mekadosh Milva and Mekadosh is not good. So in this situation, how do we understand this case? The question is, when is there an obligation to start paying? Marsav, as we continue to Mem Chesamid Beis, one holds that the payment is only at the end, and therefore it's not considered therefore like a case of a loan, and therefore it says Rashi, machzirin lo, when he gives it to her, Kiddushin hu Michael Etzla, Ve'inkan milva. That's not considered to be a milva. There was never a moment that she owed him the money. So therefore, at the until the very end, when he gave it to her, that's not considered to be a loan, there because it's the skiris is b'saif. Marsav yishal skiris milcha about saif, and therefore because that's a loan and a mekadosh b'milva and a mekadashas. V'yiboy say more alternatively, the kolyam yishal skiris milcha about saif, and also mekadosh b'milva and a mekadashas. So if that's the case, then l'chayra it shouldn't work. How can it be a machlokas? The question is that when you have a person who is engaged in making the item, does he actually acquire it because he's improving the quality? Because she gave him gold, and now he's fashioning it into some beautiful jewelry. So therefore, he's actually enhancing and increasing the value, changing that object. So is he actually kind of this object? So Marsav or Uman Kana B'Shvach Kli. Marsav in Uman Kana B'Shvach Kli. The whole question is, was the Uman actually kind it? And therefore, in the situation, if he was kind it, then it's a Kiddushin. Though he's not kind it, Rashi says Vahayu Kishar Schirus. It's like a regular case of Schirus, in which he therefore is owed the money, and therefore it's considered like a loan, and a loan you cannot be Mekadosh. In Uman Kana B'Shvach Kli. That really the uman is not kind of the shvach kli, which means it's like a regular schirus. So again, according to this, where apparently everyone should say it's not good. That this guy decided to add a little bit more than that which she had given him. So since he added a little bit more of his own, so he's actually the thing itself, you can't be Mekadosh with it because it's a Mekadosh Memilva. But since he tacked on a little bit of his own money into it, so maybe that is the Kiddushin, and that will work because he's giving her something of a pruta above and beyond the jewelry. Again, he may have included his gold or whatever is into that piece of jewelry, but he gave his own too. The Marsav Milva Pruta Daita Prut, even though we said there was maybe it's not a machlokas before. We say if you have a milva and a pruta, her das is on the pruta, and therefore it'll be good Kiddushin because she's also thinking about that extra something he gave her. Umarsa v'daita a milva, and therefore it would not be work. Upaputa the hani tanoi, and that machlokas is totally on the following: the sanya b'schar sisi imach and mikadeshas. In the situation, they say, I want you to work. I want you to be mekadosh me based on the work that I will do for you. So that's not a good Kiddushin. B'schar she'asa imach she'asisi imach, which I did for you. B'schar she'asa imach mekadeshas. But that which I will do is a good Kiddushin. Now that's a case of schirus that you'll eventually get paid. Now, in that situation, it doesn't work. He holds in either situation, it's not a good Kiddushin, because the Yishno is scarce michal about saif, and therefore it's a milva. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, the truth is, whether it's the reward that I will do or it was done already for me, and because he holds that it is mitchil about saif, and therefore it's a loan. However, which is what we said, that this is clearly according to him that if you give milva and a pruta, her das is on the pruta, and it's a good Kiddushin. The difference between them is schirus, whether it's mitchil b'yat soif or it's ein el b'sof, and therefore it'll be dependent on whether that's considered to be a Kiddushin based on it being a loan or not. Ben Rav Nas and Rav Yehuda Nasi ikaminayu milva pruta, Mar Sabar milva pruta daita milva, Umar Sabar and Rav Yehuda Hanasi clearly says that daita apruta. Okay, weiter. Says the next Mishnah. Says the Mastisin. Hiskachli b'koizeh. shel yain. I want you to marry me, and I'm giving you this cup of wine. Okay, this should be wine. V'nimsa shel dvash. It turns out that instead of it being wine, it's honey. Or shel dvash v'nimsa shel yain. He promised her wine, ends up being honey, ends up being wine. But dinner zeh shel kesef. I'm going to give you this dinner of silver. V'nimsa shel zav. It's gold. Shel zav nimsa shel kesef. The other way around. Al manash shani asher, on condition I'm rich. V'nimsa ani turns out to be poor. Ani v'nimsa asher, poor, and turns out to be rich. And mekadesh Shimon Omer im hitel shvach mekadesh. No, if it was turns out a good thing, right? So she promised. He said, "Oh, in condition I'm poor." It turns out to be rich. That is a good Kiddushin because it's above her expectations. We'll see why that's a machlokas. Says the Gemara. Tanaban. This is going to be question 10, TA 15, TB 16. Hiskachili b'koiseh. Marry me with this cup. So Tani Chada, one place it says Boyu v'masha b'toichai. It's not just the contents, but the kli itself also. But Tani idach bo v'lo b'masha b'toichai. You're only using that cup, but now which is in it. But Tani idach b'masha b'toichai v'lo boy. Another one, the third statement says they're only being mekadesh what the liquid inside, but not it itself. So it's a three-way stira. So it depends what's in the cup. One is water, one is wine, and one is tzihara, which is like a type of oil. It says Rashi, it's sir dugim, it's like a fish oil. So Rashi explains like this: water, doli chashiva, it's not chashiv. Lo haisa daita el b'kli. In that case, her das is on only the kli, not on the inside. B'chamer, wine, b'masha b'taychay. So wine is important. So you're focused on what's on the inside. On the inside, v'lo bo. Why? Diavidi l'mishtaya u'mahadri kaisel mari. Because what happens is you end up drinking and then you give the cup back. You don't keep the cup. It's not a refillable cup. B'tzahara, when we're dealing with a sir dogim, a fish with fish brine, with fish in it, shasul yamim rabim, or tabel boy, it's used to dip in. But kais sarich l'shomer boy, you need to watch the cup. Also, what's inside. V'yesh aimrim tzihara shemen is a type of oil. Lashon yitzar. So again, that is the three-way machlokas. It all depends on what the content is. Content inside the kli is. Question 10. His guy should be kaizeh. Him daitel kais or masha b'seicha. If it's water, it's the kos. If it's wine, it's the wine. And if it's this oil or fish juice or fish brine, so then the din is it's both. Okay, and that's similar to question TA 15, just asked a little bit differently. TB is Imosei havi boy b'mash b'soicha, Imosei havi bo v'lo b'mash b'soicha, Imosei b'mash b'soicha v'lo b'mash bo. Gemara and Perish Rashi. Okay. Weiter. Im hitel shvach harizem kedesh. Now, according to the shita of Rav Shimon, he actually disagrees and says even though the condition wasn't met, but if it's a condition that turns out a better thing, so then it's okay. So the Leisler Rav Shimon, we don't see that Rav Shimon holds the din yain v'nimsa chaymitz v'nimsa yain. If it's wine and it turns out to be vinegar wine, shneim yichayin lachsor, and then both parties are able to retract. Why? Because alma ika denichalei b'chalav, ika denichalei b'chamra. Some people like vinegar, some people like wine. So even though you can say, well, wine is of higher quality than vinegar, but maybe the person dafka wanted vinegar, so it's still a mekachtos. Hachinami ika nichalei b'kasvel, nichalei b'dahava. Some people like silver, not gold. So why would you say it's for the better, should work? Who says that's what they want? Amar Shimi Barashi ashkachti debaya. I found a baya de Yosef, he's sitting, the kamasaber le lebrain, who's like explained to his son, hachmai skin again shiamul shluchai. You said to a messenger, halveni dinner shel kesef, that I want you to like have me get a dinner of silver. The leich v'kadish leisha ploinus. And then with that, you should be mekadosh a woman with it. So you're asking a shliach to do this for you. The halach, so the guy did this. The hilva shel zahav. but he ended up borrowing that of gold. So even though he wanted this girl to take, he said shel kesef, the shliach did shel zahav. So Mar Savar Kapeda. Mar Savar, one holds that he's makbid, and he didn't want her to get gold. He specifically said a specific way that the shliach should do it, with silver, and therefore that's why it's not good. Mar Savar, Mar Makam Huloi. It's interesting. Svara, Mar Makam Hulo. In other words, even though he said silver, it doesn't mean he was just doing it to make it easy for him to be able to get silver. But if he would be able to get gold, that would be very nice as well. So that's the idea as well in this case, because the concept that Rav Shimon holds, Mar Makam Huloi. So Yihalchi Hiskadshili Hiskadshiloi Miboile. It shouldn't say Hiskadshili, it should Hiskadshiloi if we're dealing with a shliach. Because it's not him, he's doing it for someone else. Hita l'shvach, hitahu l'shvach miboile. Again, it doesn't sound based on the language we're talking about a shliach. Nimsa, it turns out to be this way. What do you mean? Mikar nami de zahav havi. The shliach had gold, so it's not like it turned out this way. It was that's how it always was. El amarava aniv ari shebachabura targimna. Me and the lion came up with this. Umanu Rav Chia baravin. Hachamai who are we talking about? Kigan she'amra he l'shulcha. It's not that he had a shliach; she had the shliach, and she said, "Say v'kabeli Kiddushin meploini. I want you to go and I want to get married, but I can't do it. So accept the Kiddushin on my behalf." Shamruli, because he said to me, "He's skachli b'dinner shel kesef." He said he was going to give me silver. It turns out it was gold. Mar Savar Kapeda, that she's actually going to be upset. Like, no, I said silver. I wanted you to only be Makabel silver on my behalf. Mar Savar Mar Makam Huloi. Umay Nimsa, Dekut Sire Bivlita. So what does it mean? The question of it was found, because it was always like that. It was wrapped up, when it was given to them, it was wrapped in some type of kerchief, and therefore when she opened up the cloth, that's when it turned out she saw that it was gold. So again, that is the machlokas, and this will continue to be discussed, this concept of mar makom ulo, into the next daf. Ad kan.